Welcome to Real World Real Estate, where we will explore, examine, and explain the real process of buying or selling real estate. Here is your host, Stephen Clyde.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Real World Real Estate. This is your host, Stephen Clyde, with Remax Preferred, Remax of Cherry Hill. Today, we're going to be talking to one of the top agents in the state of Virginia. We're going to be discussing the Virginia real estate market and primarily the Richmond, Virginia area. Ryan Sanford comes to us from Remax Commonwealth, and he's one of the top agents in the state of Virginia and top agent in the Richmond market. And he's also in the top 1% of all Remax agents worldwide. I believe right now he's a Diamond Club member. So, Ryan, thanks for joining us. It's great to have you here this morning. Thanks for taking the time out of your day to talk to us and our listeners about your real estate market.
Yeah.
And is there anything I missed there that you want to add and let everybody know who you are?
No, thank you, Stephen. I hope I can live up to that intro. Thank you for that.
So what's the real estate market look like in Virginia right now? Are you guys balanced or out of balance?
It's definitely a seller's market. I don't know if you recall back in February, March, when you tried to find Clorox wipes.
Right.
It's about like that.
All right. So we're the same way in New Jersey, but I compare it to toilet paper at this point. Right? Because we're seeing, a new house hits the market, and if it's priced right, or when we say right, we mean from 6 months ago comps, then you see people lining up like it's a ride at Disney World, like we're trying to get on Pirates of the Caribbean, trying to get into that house.
Yeah, definitely a lot like the same here. Interest rates right now, you're seeing 2.6, 2.7% for a 30-year fixed, and I think that's definitely what's driving it. People are jumping in because they're worried.
Yeah, they want to lock this in a little bit. We're also seeing a phenomenon up here, and I don't know if you're seeing it down there. I mean, you guys have you're slightly more moderate weather than we have, but not to an extreme, right? We're not talking Jersey versus Florida here. We may get more snow, but you guys still get a winter just like we get and everything. So, a year ago, somebody asked me about their pool. I tell them, hey, look, that $100,000 you put in your backyard for your pool was for you. It added absolutely no value to your home whatsoever. And now we're seeing the complete inverse of that in our market, where if I make the first photograph of a listing of pool, they come running for it because they want the staycation and they're afraid they're not going to leave again. Mm-hmm. Seeing the same thing down there in that dynamic shift?
Yeah, we're definitely seeing more people obviously staying home, so wanting more space. Yeah, definitely a pool, some amenities. So yeah, anytime something with a pool comes on, yeah, it's going quickly, but like I said, everything is going quickly here. So as far as the appraisals are concerned, I haven't personally seen if the appraisers are giving more value. Obviously, if typically here years past, we'd get, somebody put $100,000 into a pool, which is very high. Average pool probably 60, 70 here. You get about $7,500 in value on the appraisal.
Yeah,
that's what we've been seeing here.
That's about, you might get 10 depending on, what else was done around the pool. But yeah, you're right. Somewhere like 1/10 of what you paid for it, you were getting in value, but you weren't getting anything from the buyers, right? I always consider it purely neutral.
Yeah.
A third wanted a pool. Yeah. A third didn't care one way or another. And a third didn't want anything to do with a pool, right? So sometimes we would look at it as it was going to be a detriment in the market because we were taking at least a third of the buyers off the table, and that's changed drastically for us. So in our market up here, because we're in the Philly metro area, and then I know my peers that are up in northern New Jersey, more in the Sopranos range, in the New York metro area, we're seeing an exodus out of the city centers into the suburbs, which is driving up our prices as well because those buyers are vacating. We locked them, especially in Philadelphia, New York, we locked them up for 3 months. And then just to test them a little bit more, we threw rioting and looting at them to see if you really, really love your condo. But now we see them running out and they want backyards and they need the extra room for homeschooling or work from home and everything. Mm-hmm. In the Richmond market, are you guys seeing an exodus out of downtown, or did you guys experience any of that?
Well, I guess unless you've lived under a rock or if you're watching any news, obviously, we've got our claim to fame is Monument Avenue and the monuments that are, coming down. And so all that's going on. we sell in the city as well as in the suburbs. So I cover about a 30-mile circumference around Richmond, and Richmond as a whole is, you can drive across it doing 50 miles an hour in 10 minutes. I mean, it's a tiny little city in the grand scheme of things. But am I seeing a pattern of people coming out? I mean, I've seen a few houses come on Monument Avenue, but they're selling quickly. So, is it any more than before? No, I'm not seeing it. But, obviously, I guess political charges or people who are just getting tired of, the divisiveness or something, or just, I don't know, maybe seeing rioters, or maybe it's other purposes. I don't know, but I'm not seeing a huge wave of it.
Okay.
People are moving out, and like say the houses that are coming up are going back under contract real quickly. So, or going under contract rather.
So then you're seeing, I would assume, more of the other transition, which we're seeing here as well. We were good up until March with 3 bedrooms, but now we realized we need 4 bedrooms in a den because we have to work from home and we have to homeschool, and we need more separation space from everybody. So you're seeing more of the space change than the political force out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think the reason why I'm seeing more people go further out, obviously some people who have a small yard and now kind of want something dynamically different are always going to be, that's always going to be happening. And then I see also people are not, closer into the city. The prices are higher, or some are being forced out to places they wouldn't want to go, or going into a townhouse because, you get a single family house here under, $250, and it's like, you're giving away a free home, and, it might go 30 grand over multiple
right.
and see 25, 30 offers, waiving appraisals. So I think that's pushing some people into, I'm just tired of throwing offer after offer after a house, not getting it. And so let's just go to a townhouse, or let's move out to an area where I wasn't wanting to be at first, but, kind of like in very similar to 05, 01 to 05 when, things were crazy. So it kind of feels eerily similar to that. However, I do think the fundamentals are better. They're not giving loans to people that shouldn't have, but I'm nothing I can see a pattern of. Each person's different.
Your inventory is down as we are. I mean, I think we might be on the extreme end of the spectrum, down over 60% year over year inventory. Is Virginia and that Richmond market area experience that same drop, or similar, I should say?
Yeah, I don't know what the exact percentage is, but our average days on market for our entire MLS, and mind you, our MLS covers some pretty rural spaces, is 9 days on market. That's our entire MLS.
9?
So 9 days.
Holy crap.
Yeah.
That's which probably was what, in the 90s prior to all of this, or this market shift, or?
Our average days on market prior to the upswing was floating around 35.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. But still, that's a big differential. That's, if you're not there the first hour it hits the market, then you're pretty much out for the most part. Yeah. Anytime I have a client represent a buyer and they want to see something, it's a Tuesday and they say, we'd like to see it on Saturday. I'm like, it's not going to be there. So let's go look at it now. Yeah. Right. Well, yeah, agreed. We're in the same boat. I'm not off till Wednesday. I'm like, well, the house will be gone by then. Highest and best will be over at that point.
Uh-huh.
So let's back up a little bit. If I was, a first-time home buyer coming into the Richmond market, what am I looking at housing-wise? I mean,
well, first, you need a great agent. So, I think that's paramount. Obviously, once you've been doing this for 20 years, you've got some tricks up your sleeve to further your offer. But just build expectations, be ready to, at a moment's notice, to go look at property. I'm recommending people go ahead and get full loan commitment through the lender instead of just a pre-qualification letter, that, things like that. Writing personal letters to the sellers. We're pulling out all stops. I mean, we're doing I know a lot of people think, oh, hey, this puts me in a disadvantage of negotiating. It's like this, the list price is not the price it's listed. It's kind of opening bid basically. So the days of trying to negotiate are pretty much out the window, unfortunately, but you do try to capitalize back on the home inspection. Once you get into that, at least once you've got it under contract, maybe get back a little bit of your money, but it's just a different mindset of, if you want a deal, we're not in that market.
No, if you want a deal, you got it at ask, right? That's our market right now.
Right.
That's the best deal you can hope for at this point.
Exactly.
Funny, I had a couple who's first time home buyers, and she was all in on an offer we made, and his position was, well, we're going 25 over ask. I don't feel comfortable with that. And I explained back to him, I said, whoever wins this, if it's 25, 30, 20, it doesn't matter. That's the new baseline now, right? So that the next house in this neighborhood you go from, you're not working from 350 now, you're working from 370 or 375, and you're working up from that point, right? Because we're constantly reestablishing these new, bottoms or support levels for these houses.
Yep. And I don't know about your market, but here we've got a huge void from new construction. It's almost impossible just with the cost of land, and we have proffers when you build, and when you do the tap charges for the water and sewer, the economy of scale to work against you to try to build something in the 300s. Our median here is low 300s. So trying to build something like that, you almost have to have a free lot, like a lot for $15,000, $20,000 to be able to make that work on a small scale house. So most of the builders, all the new stuff you see right now is in the 500-600 range. And, there's a huge void of anybody below. Some of the, big box builders can hit in the 4s, townhouses in the 3s, but it's just a huge disparity from trying to find something. If you're 400 or below in certain areas, it's tough.
That's what we are. We're seeing that we're seeing different markets, right? So that 350 and under is insane right now because there is no inventory for that buyer. As is that like 350 to the 5 range or 550. Again, very intense market. But when we start, so our median is in the mid to low 2s.
Okay.
For our overall market. So, but when we start to see that upper echelon, right, the 750s, the 9s, the millions, they're in a completely different market than everybody else is in.
We were sort of seeing that, but we're absorbing the $1 million price points in the suburbs. In the city, $1 million is pretty much nothing. If you're near U of R, Monument Avenue, $1 million, $2 million, they're being weak on the market.
Really?
Yeah.
So your market's actually even a little bit stronger than we are. So our million pluses are probably sitting in the 90 to 120 day range.
Yeah, Richmond's always been a very strong, stable market. You look at what our income levels are versus what the housing costs are. It's pretty well balanced. Also, we've got some great claims to fame, as you've got history of Richmond, what's left of it. You've got that, and then you can be at the beach within an hour and a half. You can be at the mountains within an hour and a half. You can be to DC in an hour and a half. So maybe 2 hours, depending on what time of the day you go. And our property taxes are pretty low in comparison. I know you guys up north are, $300,000-$400,000 house, you're paying $12,000 in taxes. We'd be paying $3,000 in taxes.
Yeah, slightly different. I mean, we have one listed right now in Cherry Hill at $899, and the huge selling point on the property of the taxes are only $20,000.
Amazing. Yeah, $20,000 would be about a $3 million house here.
$3 million here, we're going to be in the 70s without blinking an eye. Our numbers are just, our average is $8,300 a year.
That's amazing.
So it really plays to our school system, right? We're ranked number 1 or number 2, us in Connecticut, back and forth nationwide. So if you start slipping into those top 50 school districts in New Jersey, which pretty much puts you in the top 50 in the country, yeah, your tax rate is going through the roof. My daughter up in Westfield in North Jersey, her purchase was $1,250, and their tax bill is a little over $27,000. So if I am a buyer in your market, because I completely understand obviously how New Jersey works. What's the process look like in Virginia? If I'm writing an offer, am I writing a proposal to purchase? Am I going right to contract? Am I using an attorney or just using a title company? What's the structure look like in
That's a great question. So how our market is basically you put an offer together, subject to typically financing, inspections, unless you waive those two things, which we are seeing right now. Basically go under contract, do the home inspection, and how our contract is designed is basically once you come up with a list of defects, you ask the seller to fix it. If the seller says they're going to fix all of it, we're moving forward. If they say we'll fix everything but one, the buyer has the option to walk away. That's how our contract works forward. As far as closings, I always recommend an attorney. You can use a title company in our area, but I've just always found that in the instance when some friction between buyer and seller happen, it's always great to have a mouthpiece. It's a couple $100. It's a great insurance policy that, if a seller is stepping out of line or not doing something that they're supposed to per the contract, you just say, hey, Mr. Attorney, fire over a nasty gram of what's getting ready to happen to that person. And it usually gets people back in line. And if that has to happen. So, but yeah, you can use a title company here if you like.
All right. So, this is New Jersey and Virginia are very alike in that because our home inspection clause is basically the same way. As long as the seller agrees, you're bound. It doesn't matter if there's 25% of the value in repairs. You have to move forward if they're going to fix them. And the same thing here. You can use a title company. You can use an attorney. It's entirely up to the client which way they want to go. I do find it's interesting. I can write the same email 10 times to the other side, and they won't listen to me. The attorney writes the exact same email, puts Esquire after his name, and all of a sudden everybody goes, oh, I didn't realize. Really? It's like, I've been telling you that for why weren't you listening to me?
Yep. This is what's getting ready to happen to you, Mr. Seller, and tell the other agent. And it's like, all right, I've gotten as far as I can, Mr. Foreman. Go ahead, send this letter over.
Rock and roll, crush them.
Yeah.
So, all right. So our closings and everything look very similar. We're using title companies. You're doing a settlement format, not like a California or New York where the escrow format, right? Your buyers and sellers are getting together at the table.
Actually, our sellers do not come to the table. So our sellers will come in about 3 days prior to once their closing company, whoever title company or attorney, get the deed request and get clear title and what have you. Seller will come in a few days beforehand, sign their deed and any other documents like a specific power of attorney or anything else that they need to sign. And then buyer and seller are not at the closing table, which I love. Because if there was ever a time when things got a little friction based, I could only imagine you guys who have buyer and seller sitting at the table with both agents, you could probably cut the tension with a knife. We don't have that here.
There have been times where, you would need something stronger than a knife to cut the tension. There have been issues where we've done it where we've actually had to get multiple rooms to separate everyone and put the attorneys in one room, the buyer in one room, and the seller in one room, and then put a neutral referee between the two agents at times. It's been interesting to see that. Now, due to COVID-19, we've kind of transitioned more towards what you're describing, where we used to all show up at the table and there'd be 9 people, the lenders, agents, clerks, all the buyers, the buyers and sellers, their attorneys and everything, and resolve stuff. And I would say 90% of the time it went smooth. But now we've transitioned into that. We're going to put as few people in the room as humanly possible. And, all right, you go, either you sign 3 days before at the title company, or as you said, at your attorney's office. And then, they're just emailing everything over with their power of attorney and faxing back and forth, and we're cleaning it up that way.
Yep.
So we've transitioned into your mode. We went through, for a little while there in the very beginning, no one was allowed in the closing room except the person signing the documents. So I'd show up masked and gloved, but I'd be in the building lobby. I wasn't even allowed in the office space.
Yeah. We've had a few attorneys where you couldn't come in. I've heard of a few doing stuff on the picnic table outside. But my personal attorney that I typically recommend, he was limiting it to the people who were actually signing. So don't bring your kids and your aunt, your uncles, and people in. So let's keep it to basics. And things have loosened up, I think, a little bit around here from some people. I don't think that's still going on, the picnic table signing, but I could be wrong. There might be some people that still are, but.
Well, we still have that going on, and we were doing the Chick-fil-A version of it, right? The drive-up closing. Literally, the buyer drove up, the clerk handed them the pack, they parked in a designated spot, and the clerk would stand there and watch them while they were in their car signing the papers, and they would drive back up again, and she would notarize them.
Wow.
It was, we were joking. It was a drive-through closing. It was absurd. And you as the agent would be parked in another area of the parking lot. You were there for a question or something, but you were still sitting in your car at the same time. So it was a unique time frame. March, I would say, till June. I think we were making up things as we went, and you had absolutely no idea what each closing was going to look like when you showed up.
We've got some new COVID addendums that have been out there, but honestly, I've not experienced anybody who's had to delay because of catching it or what have you personally, or anybody on my team so far. But I have heard of a few instances around here where somebody was like, well, we can't come into closing because, we've been infected. So you got to postpone for 2 weeks.
Yeah, we didn't experience any of that. I think we only saw one legitimate deal die due to COVID-19, and that was in the very, very beginning, when the mortgage and the lenders didn't know what was going on and they were really tightening the purse strings. We had an investor buying a property, and they were using their equity line for the purchase. And the day before closing, the bank shut down the equity line.
Oh, yeah.
And that was in that sweet spot when they were shutting down, they raised credit scores up to 700 and they wouldn't do anything less than 20% down. And,
we had a few of those go sideways where they were marginal on credit, and all of a sudden, lender took the scores up. So it was a precarious time for about 3 weeks. I was talking to my 3 lender partners, and every morning it's like, all right, what's new today? It was almost like hour by hour. And I almost got to a point where I was calling them once in the morning, once in the evening to just say, hey, what's new? So I could tell our team, like, okay, guys, this is what I know new. And it was hour by hour. It's just, it was definitely a stressful period of time.
But I think by April, that kind of cleaned itself up a little bit. I mean, in my recollection, and it's funny, when I look back on it, it was an extremely intense time, but a lot of it almost, lack of a better term, seems like a dream, right? Like I can't pinpoint a date when something happened. It was just a whirlwind at that time.
Yeah. And like I say, I've got a team of agents. I don't know if you're.
Yeah, we have a small team too. Not as strong as yours, but we're getting there slowly but surely.
No, I was just saying is obviously, trying to keep up with the education for all my agents it was daunting because, if I left it up to them, it's like, I don't know, was losing a lot of sleep and getting somebody under contract, paying for a home inspection appraisal, invested in, especially first time home buyer with limited funds, how it is when you bought your first house, you're scratching everything you can get together just put the down payment together, and to lose $1,000 or thereabouts, it's like, just kind of haunted me. So it was definitely precarious times trying to make sure that my agents got like, hey, make sure you stay with the lenders and make sure they got a lender letter, 3 weeks ago. make sure that you still qualify before you write that, because you just,
Oh no, we were doing those.
Sorry, that loan's gone. I can't do it anymore.
That program doesn't exist anymore, or we've tightened the restrictions on it, or there's no funding right now. Especially when they were running, we do a lot. State of New Jersey does a lot of first-time homebuyer grant programs, and that money evaporated overnight, right? Like that was gone; it didn't exist anymore. Yeah. If you needed that $10,000 grant to get to closing, we had to adapt and improvise, right? And quick make adjustments. Do we have enough appraisal value that we can roll this in now as a seller's assist and bump up the sales price? And it got a little crazy. And the other thing that we experienced, I don't know if you did, right? Because how everyone reacted to COVID-19, right, wrong, or indifferent, was designated by geographic area, right? I mean, we were all responding differently. The Northeast responded different than Mid-Atlantic, than Florida and California and such. And, there were deals we made in the middle of March based off the fact that we had no idea what was coming down the line. So if you had a cash buyer or a 20% down buyer coming into your listing, we were accepting something that we normally wouldn't accept because we knew that person could close and we could settle. I remember one, we were in the highest and best in Cherry Hill, and my buyer decided to go in under ask in a multiple offer situation. But that was during the time when who's being furloughed, who's being laid off. And we showed them that, look, he works for the government. He's not going anywhere. She works for Merck. She's not going anywhere. They're 20% down. We're already approved. That seller took our below ask offer in a multiple offer situation because they felt comfortable we could close in 30 days. Were you guys experiencing that same dynamic back then, or?
Well, you know how it is. It all depends on how well the listing agent hears, and sometimes it's who's got the most money. But you as well as I know that it's not always the best money. It's who's going to get from point A to point B, and so yeah, that extra $5,000 you got on what contract one, and then getting pushed out from closing, you lost that $5,000 in moving trucks and stress and days of your life of having to worry about it, because definitely sometimes it's better to get point A, point B for a little bit less money than
I find that a lot of, especially newer agents, forget that there's two words when we go into that, right? It's highest and best. They skip the end part, right? And they just go to the highest, right? And you're right. Seasoned, experienced agents, those of us that lived through it in 06 and 07 and 05, realize that it's not the best number. It's the best number that can get to the settlement table and get the checks to everybody.
You'd be amazed how many buyers we get through where you just throw $40,000 at it, but it's still subject to the appraisal and the agent doesn't even catch it. It's like, okay, appraisal issue, bring the price down, moving on.
Yeah, bring the price down or go back on the market again and restart again, right? And now you're damaged goods coming back on the market.
Exactly.
Now everybody looks at going, was it an inspection issue? What's wrong with it? Or, we're seeing a lot of that. We didn't see anybody lose funding because of job loss or that type of thing. Because really our big hits came in the hospitality side of things. So if you were a waiter, waitress, bartender, worked in one of the casinos, that's where we were taking our layoff hits. We weren't really taking them in our core industries and businesses. And I'm sure you probably saw the exact same thing down there, right?
Yeah, we had a couple, working for one of the department stores that closed down. They were, not floor people, but they were, the companies were basically going bankrupt, and, so it was a little tenuous, got those done. But that was probably one of the ones that stands out in my mind that was pretty close to falling apart mid transaction. I think most kind of knew about it. Luckily, we were very blessed in the fact that we didn't have to let a lot of people down, but we did have a few precarious ones that were in contract that were qualified. Then all of a sudden it's like that loan program went away. They were building, and luckily things corrected. Little emotional roller coaster on that. Buyers sitting there like, I want all this stuff fixed. I'm like, you might not even have a loan, so let's focus more on what's going on here. So yeah, it was the wild west. I probably lost about 5 years of my life stressing over the last few months, but we'll get through.
You didn't lose any more hair.
I know that was from the ex-wife and kids, So. Yeah, but I used to have a full set, but
It's good on you though. You carry it well. You own
Well,
it well.
thank you. What little bit I'm carrying.
Luckily, that doctor, when you first came to the world, didn't use the forceps on you. So the market as a whole in Virginia is strong, and it's like we're seeing everywhere else I take it. Is there anything unique that you see in Virginia that the rest of us in the country don't see, or that you've heard otherwise? Or I know that's a tough question.
I mean, the only unique thing is I think all your people who want to come down to some better climate, she can call me and I got to get a sales pitch in there.
Of course I knew that. Of course we all do that. We know we're going to put all your contact information and everything in the show notes at the end, anybody that wants to go in the Virginia area. And I would say to anybody, even if you're not necessarily looking in the Richmond market, you should reach out to Ryan and let him give you the right direction where to in that Virginia market, who you should speak to, because he carries the same, credentials and expertise there that I carry here in South Jersey. So that's the call I would be making if one of my clients said we're moving to, where, even if it's Asheville, or Charlottesville, or Arlington, or wherever. I'm reaching out to Ryan for guidance before I send them anywhere. So I highly recommend that to everyone there. So do you see any correction coming in the short term in your inventory situation? I mean, I'm not seeing it here.
The crystal ball question. That all the time. I'm like, if I could forecast the future, I honestly would probably be retired and be playing the lottery next Friday. But unfortunately, I don't know. I don't foresee anything happening. I mean, I'm watching very closely with mortgage markets. It looks like the interest rates, from what I've been reading, are going to probably stay pretty close to the same. Yeah. The Fed says for 3 years now. Of course, the Fed's not responsible for interest rates per se. It's usually more tied to the 10-year Treasury. But I think, until the economy comes back, back to a little bit of health, all this COVID stuff kind of gets a little bit less out of the forefront of the media and in everybody's mindset. I think interest rates are going to stay the same. Only thing I'm just wondering is where's the ceiling of the price points going to top out? I don't know if it's going to, because just like I said, all the new construction, lumber is going up drastically. So, new construction builder the other day, I sold a house probably in February and it's already being completed. I'm actually doing her walkthrough today. Had somebody else this weekend going the same house, went up $10,000 in 6 months.
Oh yeah, their cost is going up.
Yeah,
drastically, and we kind of saw that back in 05 and 06. Remember when drywall went through the roof and lumber and asphalt? But we're seeing in some of our new construction, some of the builders we work with, where they're way behind on their normal timeline because they can't get cabinets in right now. They can't get roofing material, right? There's a 3 to 4 week delay on their cabinets over what it used to be. That stuff, I think, will start to even itself out over the next several months as they get the supply lines back in line again. But I don't think our inventory is going to adjust itself for any time in the near future, personally.
Yeah. Unless days on market start going up, I don't see the builders pushing the price points down. Which got used to those prices. Even if their prices go down, I don't think they're going to,
they're going to keep it. They're going to keep it.
Let me make a little extra money is what I'm anticipating. So I don't know what's the future hold. I wish I could have a crystal ball, but what I always tell everybody who comes to me is like, the best time to have bought was always 5 years ago. You can never time the market. What I can tell you about is right now, 2.6, 2.7% interest rate on a 30-year fixed. I'm like, it's basically free money.
It is. My first one was 10, right?
Yeah. Mine was 10.5 in 1999. That was when I bought my first house in my early 20s.
Yeah.
So, but I remember when my folks moved up from Florida in '85, and they got an 11.5% interest rate on a 15-year fixed, and my old man was elated, just like he had won the lottery. course, it meant nothing to me when I was that age, but those that then were 30-year rates were 15, 17, 18%.
Yeah.
So
I think the only phenomenon I think that's going to return that we probably haven't seen in well over 20 plus years is FHA assumability coming back in vogue, right? Because you lock in I've seen clients at 2.35, 2.4 on a 30-year fixed FHA. Well, that whole assumability of an FHA has been forgotten about since the 90s. Nobody cared about it anymore. But I do think 5-6 years from now, that's going to be a phenomenon that's going to come back again. Like interest rates go back to 4 or 5, and you've got a house at 2.3 locked in.
Well, Steve, I thought that as well when we got down into the 4s. I was like, look at us now. So there you go. And I've been pounding the drum, like, get in now, because I'm like, I think the rates are going to go up. The rates are going to go up. I think everybody thought I'm puffing to it because I really thought the rates were going to go up. I never in a million years, I guarantee you, talk to anybody, people who've been in business 40 plus years, it's like 2%. You would have asked them that, a year ago, 10 years ago, be like, nah, never see it. Not possible. They'd have bet any amount of money that would never happen.
And, that's on conventional stuff we're talking about. I just had a client looking at a Jersey Shore house, 950 plus down beach, second home, and they've got a jumbo at 2.875.
That's amazing.
Jumbos were always a penalty buy, right? You always paid extra on your interest rate for going jumbo.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's for a little while there. We were, I think, back in the beginning of the summer, the jumbos were actually less than the 30-year fix for a short period of time.
I know for a time there, March, like everybody pulled back. When COVID hit, it was like everybody was raising scores and backing away from construction loans. I don't even know if anybody's doing construction loans, now, with any certainty. But I don't think they're back yet. But the jumbo finally eased back up and people got back into the market. But I think everybody was panicked and everybody was worried about all the forbearances and.
That'll be interesting when that ghost inventory finally shows its head. We know it's out there, right? There's a foreclosure inventory that's going to be coming. I don't think it'll be like 08, 09, but it's floating out there for us right now.
I don't think it's going to be anything of any consequence because people have equity now. It's if you look at the difference between the market in 05, 06 when the crash and everything, they were giving 100% loans, stated income, no doc. We're giving you weird loan programs, pick your pay option arms, which, lenders like, oh, if you're a disciplined person, I'm like 90% of the people are like, yeah, I get a lower payment. You get kind of used to paying that lower payment. And what's a recapture? All of a sudden, just greed on Wall Street. But it is what it is. But I don't know. I think, if you got to a point where you're getting ready to lose your house, instead of losing the equity, you're going to put it on the market, cash out. And I think a lot of people are going to become renters. I think it's a great time for people who are looking to invest in property, buy small single family homes. I own a bunch of them, brick and little small yards, good school systems. And it's like, rent's going to always go up. And so.
No, that's true. I think the only issue I'm seeing right now in our rental market, especially for our investors, is the quality of the tenants has gone down recently, right? Because anybody that was close to being able to buy at current interest rates and what their payment's going to be is stepping in to buy, and they're not stepping into rent right now. We're getting here below that's stepping into rent.
You'd be amazed. The ones I've got a doctor that I don't want to. I guess I can't not say names, but he makes over $450,000 a year. Gave me a 3-year lease on one of my properties. Another one makes well over $100,000. Had a house in Florida, but house in Florida hadn't sold yet, so that's why she's renting. She'll probably stay a year. Another one, him and his wife make over $150,000 a year, 700 scores, and they're renting. I don't know why.
Really?
Yep, all 3 of those could buy. So yeah, and each one of those houses, every time I put them up for rent, I have anywhere depending on the time of year, but anyone that I do in June, July, when it comes to renew, I'll have 40 to 50 people within 24 hours, and I have to cut it off.
District.
Yeah, that apply, and that's just pick of the litter. It's there's more renters here than there are rental properties, so it's mind-boggling. I don't get it. Yeah, if I would buy, and I've even told some of the people who applied, like, why are you doing this? Like, I don't want to turn you away as a tenant, but what is wrong with you? It goes against my moral fiber to rent, but like, I just don't. We're not ready. We want to wait a year or two. I'm like, well, shoot, a year or two, interest rates can be 6%. You're good. Who knows?
And the baseline of those houses is going to move up again, and what you could have bought,
right,
going to be 380 for if you're lucky. And
you're preaching to the choir, but hey.
So I am going to give you a little sales pitch time, which I normally don't, but I want to dive into this because you offer this program. So I'll give you a little bit to explain it out because I don't fully understand it.
Sure.
So if I'm down in the Richmond market and I'm selling my house, and maybe it's not a big deal for me right now because of the way the market is, your team comes in with a guarantee, right?
Correct. Mm-hmm.
And so what's that look like to me as Mr. Seller? If I have to relocate to Arlington because I'm going to work in a government office now, so I got to leave Richmond and go to Arlington.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, I can't compete as a contingent offer anymore. That's kind of like where your program comes into play for them? Or?
So, yeah, our program is designed as more of an insurance policy. So when if somebody's relocating out of the area, then we're probably not going to be representing them because it's outside of our MLS. But what we've found is, 82% of people need to have the other house sold before they buy the next one. But then it comes the old chicken before the egg. Do we put our house on the market? We don't find something. So what I do is I offer an insurance policy, if you will. We'll still market their house as active, but basically we'll put a guaranteed cash offer on their house of 95% of the price that we put on a 30-day sales price that the seller agrees to, and minus the commission as well. So, I'm not paying myself a commission, but we'll give you that guarantee. What that affords these people to be able to, the seller to do is be able to buy their next house. We'll still market their house at a higher price. It gets sold. The seller still wins and makes more money off of it, but it helps them be able to buy their next house.
So they don't have a buyer in it. We're using normal market because right now we got 9 days of market where you are, so it doesn't really apply. But a normal market, we're in that 30, 35 range. They can step in and make that offer before they've actually secured the buyer because they have your guarantee behind.
Correct.
So they're going in contingent on proceeds now, not contingent on going under contract.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So they're removing their first contingency up front, even though we're still marketing at the higher price.
Yep. Makes them a stronger buyer. They've got a guaranteed cash price that I'll buy it. And
that's a great program for sellers. It helps from that standpoint because that is the inevitable problem is, all right, if I put mine up now, what do I do if somebody steps in tomorrow and gives me my full price offer? Where do I go? What do I do? Or I can't compete for the new house because I haven't sold this house yet. And it's a tough balancing act for people. I've been advising my sellers, look, go make sure you have secured temporary housing, right? And be ready for that because we're not going to line these up.
Mm-hmm.
And the other times, we're in competition on fights that we can't win because of that contingency that's on there.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't matter how much higher we go. Nobody wants the if offer.
Yep. Yeah. So that's what it's for. Some of my competition will say it's a gimmick. It's not. It's not for everybody. I don't know if you guys got like Zillow offers, or Open Door. They do basically the same thing. They'll offer a little bit reduced price, but some people it works for. I've had people where I come in and they just want to be gone and don't want to have to fool with it, and say, if you'll give me this, I've bought houses before and said, okay, well, I'll buy it for that, and write them an offer for it, turn it into a rental.
Oh, all right. Then that becomes part of the rental inventory. That's not a bad idea. So it's a win-win from both sides then, right?
Yeah. Like I said, but again, we're just trying to get people from point A to point B. I'm sure you've had people come to you and say, we're shopping for a house. It's like, okay. And they talk to the lender. Well, you have to have your house sold.
Yeah.
So you go out and they want to go look at 30 or 40 houses. It's like, guys, until we've got this worked out on your house, you find the perfect house and it's gone. Okay. Now we got to put your house in the market. This alleviates that.
That's a great program. That's a great program. And you've got information on your website, and also when we add this to the show notes, anybody in that Virginia market can come check that out.
I don't put all my work product out there, just,
Understood. Competition.
But I'd be happy to share it with anybody who wants to see it. Also, we do some good guarantees for our buyers as well. We guarantee that we'll get them $5,000 off the house and a home warranty negotiated in. If not, then we'll pay for the home warranty up to $1,000. And also, we give guarantees as well. If somebody buys a house from us and they don't like it within the first 18 months, I don't know, say the next door neighbor's got an annoying barking dog, or I don't know, got a Trump poster across the street, or whatever you want to, whatever your
or a Biden
back and forth.
Yeah.
If you want to move out of there, I'll sell the house for free. Obviously, I'm not paying the buyer's agency commission, but I'll do it for free to sell it within the first 18 months if they decide. Now that get a job relocation or something like that's off the table, But if they just don't like the house or want to use us again to buy another house, we'll sell it for free.
And that's kind of putting your money where your mouth is, basically, right? Like, I'm going to work with you to find the right house and make sure you get the right house. Mm-hmm. But if we make that mistake, we're here to step in and rectify that for you as quickly as humanly possible.
Mm-hmm. Well, it also it gives you a little bit of a security that I'm not going to push you into the first thing that, oh, here's a house, let's write on it. Let's make sure it's right, No,
I agree with that. So basically you're going into it without what I call commission breath.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah.
Right. Like, listen, I need you to write this offer for $25,000 over ask, because if you don't, I can't make my mortgage or car payments. Mm-hmm. Right. Whereas luckily both of us have businesses now in place where, doesn't matter when the buyer buys or the seller sells, we're working with them no matter what. And
we like long-term relationships. I mean, obviously if you're here for the quick buck, you're going to be out of business very quickly. You're never going to get a referral. People are not going to come back to you. So it's very short-sighted to be like that. But this just, how it is. It's an emotional process to buy or sell a house. So we put these guarantees in place to try to say, hey, look, we'll put it on black and white. This, where that agent says, oh, we'll let you out of the listing agreement if you don't like what you have to hear. But the day comes, it's like, well, that's not what the listing agreement says. Well, we'll actually give you a piece of paper that says, we guarantee this. So,
right, that's cool. Oh, I like that. Yeah. I like that a lot. All right. So we've got a hot, strong market down there. Is there any part of the market that doesn't exist anymore or is getting weaker? I mean, condos, 55 and older. Is there any specifics about your market that's unique or different now that wasn't last year?
Just again, the only thing that's unique over last year is just the lack of inventory, and it's amazing times, and I still think it's a good time to buy and sell real estate. So nothing I don't see has really changed other than, like I said, demand has increased, supply is down. So, and I foresee that's going to be the norm for at least the next year. Some economists are saying crash, and then others are saying boom. So I lean more towards a boom, but again, I don't have a crystal ball. Nobody does, but.
No, we don't. I think we can debunk a lot of those so-called experts out there that come out. I mean, we did one earlier in the summer with, Susie Orman said, worst time in the world to buy a home. You're going to pay $300,000 for your house. Your neighbors are in forbearance. They get foreclosed on. The bank's going to sell it for $150,000. And now your house is worth $150,000. And it was like,
I used to love
you couldn't be more wrong.
I used to love listening to her until I heard that one. I was like, I disagree totally. It just seemed very ignorant, in my opinion, that there's no factual basis for what she said. But
no, it was shock and awe mentality, right? FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt. And we know it's a human emotion that's what we respond to. Mm-hmm. But I think for most people, right? I mean, the flippers aside, because I don't worry about servicing them at all. You're big boys. You should know what you're doing. But I think for most people, this is a long-term endeavor, and they're buying a home. They're not buying Apple stock, right? We're buying a house, mm-hmm. buying our home for our family. Mm-hmm. And historically speaking, we may have, valleys and troughs that we fall into in the housing market. But historically speaking, you're going to be fine. Even if you bought at the worst possible moment in 2008 and the market tanked, well, you're probably better off now than you were when you bought in 2008 at this point, at least in our market, right? Our values are back above that high watermark of 2007, 2008. Mm-hmm. So I think if you go into it that way, if you go into it like a day trader's mindset, then it's dangerous. But I think in the long term, you right now you can't. You're building wealth, equity. You're getting a tax deduction on your mortgage. Everything is a positive in this. And don't try timing the market, right? Because if you had sold out your 401k back in March, you missed out on a huge recovery. And it's the same thing that applies here. If you try timing it, you're going to lose.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you look historically, I mean, case in point, one of my rental properties was built in 1952. Looked at the deed when it was recorded originally, bought it from the original owner's son or grandson. That was one that I bought. And I did a refi on it when the rates went down beginning of this year. It appraised for $300,000. She bought it for $11,250 in 1952. $11,000 doesn't get you much of a car today. I'm starting to sound like my old man.
I don't think it gets you a car today.
Yeah, I know. I'm starting to sound like my old man. It's like, pickup trucks are $80,000-$90,000 for a Ford pickup truck. Mind-boggling.
It is. I remember, buying a car a long, long time ago, and not wanting that payment to go above $250 a month. Right? I mean, that's where my threshold was. Mm-hmm. But that's a great example, right? Because in 1952, for $11,000. That owner or that house has seen so many peaks and valleys that we've gone through, so many recessions and so many bad housing markets, and to still be worth 30 plus times what it was originally worth is mind-boggling.
Yeah. Wise man once told me that they're not making any more land. So
no, they're absolutely not. That's true. And that's our problem. Well, we're a densely populated state. Obviously, you guys have a lot more open space than we do, but that's our problem. We have nowhere to build, right? It's, you're tearing down homes and putting up new construction, or maybe you're finding a 10 to 12 home cul-de-sac that you can squeeze in. But the days of the 200 plus home major subdivision in New Jersey are gone. That land doesn't exist anymore. Yeah. Right. And if it does, it's so far out from everything that nobody wants to be there anyway. Mm-hmm. Right, it's in the middle of nowhere. So you guys are playing the same thing in your zoning and planning board restrictions, right? I mean,
no, we've got plenty of land around here. There's a lot of trees, a lot of open space, a lot of farms, a lot of.
But can that ground be touched for new inventory, or is that kind of restricted?
Oh yeah, I mean, obviously, it's depending on the county. Some places have designated green spaces where it's not in the comp plan right now, but eventually. It will be. I've been in Richmond pretty much all my life. I was born here, and then we moved to Florida when I was 2 and moved back when I was 10. So I've seen from everything from the city, and we live in a county just south of the city that, everything was within about a mile or 2 from the city, and then all the growth kept going out and out. And so I just, and there's plenty of stuff in between to fill in. So we don't have that problem, luckily, Stephen, for at least not in the near future. We've got a lot of land around us.
Well, I know you're busy as hell and you've got to walk through and all to do, and your schedule's probably as jam-packed as mine is in this market, so I'm going to let you cut off there.
Sure.
I appreciate the time you spent with us. It was educational. I can't wait till we can actually get together again and see each other face to face.
Absolutely.
Looks like Remax is actually going to do the convention, but I'd be curious to see if that actually hits, right? It's still in the books, but.
Yeah, I think Elite Retreat is open. They talked about that when they were released the date. So I definitely feel solid about that one. So but as far as, I don't know, February, March is going to be here before we know it. So I don't know. Lots going to change.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what the winter brings us between schools and
4th.
Everything else. Yeah.
Or November 4th. That might make things go away. I don't know. We'll see.
I don't know if we're going to get an answer on November 4th, though. Right?
That's true. We'll see. Crazy times, isn't it, my friend?
It is. But it seems as I get older, I say that more and more. often, right? I mean, I'm sure there was times that I don't remember as a kid that my father was saying the same thing, or at least I hope there was, and the Republic survived and we came out of it. I do think, though, that without making a political statement, because, I think real estate should be like the bars, right? The first rule is no religion, no politics.
Yeah.
But I think if more people would just talk like you and I are right now, we'd realize that there's not that much that divides us like the media makes us believe.
Right. Yep.
For the most part, we all want the same things. We want a healthy family. We want a roof over our heads. We want to provide for a family. Everything else is basically noise, right? Clothing, shelter, and food. That's all we truly need as human beings. But I appreciate you coming on. I love you, brother. It's been a while. We need to get together and get the rest of the group and all together and sit down at the bar and have a good time.
Absolutely. I look forward to it.
You take care. If you need anything up in Jersey, don't hesitate to call. And if anyone listening is going down to the Virginia market, check out the show notes and reach out to Ryan and get some guidance, and he'll set you up with the right people. If it's not on his team or his market, he'll make sure you got the right person there.
Thank you, guys.
Take care, man. See you.
Thank you.